Hi everybody, and welcome to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. In this video, we've got two stories from the subreddit Relationship Advice, and both have updates, just like the thumbnail suggests. So like always, if you want to move around the different parts of the video, you can always use the timestamps right below it. Now, let's get started with that first story. This post is from the subreddit Relationship Advice, and it's by user ThrowArray186252. Boyfriend faked his death and then called my reaction manipulative. Me and my boyfriend. I'm 21 female, he's 24 male. Together for 3 years. Live apart, but have and had plans to rent together soon. Everything was perfect before this. Backstory. I have a history of self-harm. Have done it since I was 11 years old. The last time I did it was 2 years ago. I have some brutal scars, but I'm doing much better and I'm in therapy. It's been a while since I even had the urge. My boyfriend had an ex before me who played mind games a lot. I feel it's relevant as he sometimes thinks I'm playing mind games when I'm not. For example, he was worried when we started dating that I would self-harm for attention or do it to punish him. His ex would threaten things like that if he ever left her. I don't and have not ever done this, and despite my struggles, I am pretty good with being patient and communicative. Until this, I considered us to have a really healthy relationship. Main story. Boyfriend went out drinking with his friends. I usually hear from him as he gets home, 2 a.m.-ish, to let me know if he is home and safe, but I didn't hear anything last night. I figured he just forgot. No biggie, I went to bed as normal. I woke up at 11 to a bunch of missed calls from his mother. They live together. I called her back and she texted at 1 p.m. that she couldn't talk. I was kinda worried and told her as much. She said my boyfriend didn't get home last night and was in a crash and didn't make it. This was super weird to me since I get on well with his mom and would never expect to be told this via text. After some more texting, I fully believed my boyfriend had passed away that morning, and I totally shut down. The people I live with were all out that day, so I was alone. Grief set in immediately, and I had an extremely bad relapse on my self-harm. At that point, I didn't even care. I was just hurting so much, and my usual coping techniques just weren't doing their job. I listened to old voice notes of his and even sent one telling him how much I loved him through the most unhinged sobbing I've ever done. Well, he arrived at my house 20 minutes later saying it was a prank since he got into a small bump and thought I'd get mad about him driving drunk as well as about him mushing up his car a little. And he and his friends came up with this plan to just make me happy he was alright. So they took his mom's phone and the above happened. I obviously was thankful he wasn't dead, but I had a million other much stronger emotions. I was so angry he drove drunk, so angry he saw nothing wrong with it, so angry that he would lie about something so serious, and absolutely heartbroken that he let me sit in grief for over an hour until I sent a voice note that made him feel bad. Plus, lots of other things that I'm still struggling to articulate. He found out I harmed and flew off the handle. He said I punished him and turned a harmless prank into something much more serious and ruined the joke of it. He said I was guilting him for having fun and now he can't trust I won't do it again. He even suggested I stay in a hospital for my mental issues for a few weeks and crank up therapy. He said he can't leave me if he wants now, or else I'll act like this, just like his ex. I am beyond hurt. I probably should look into therapy if I'm still resorting to it, I admit. But this was not an everyday bout of anxiety or even a breakup. I thought he had died. I'm also very aware that his actions are massively crappy and he is being so manipulative in the aftermath. How is it a punishment if I thought he was dead? I absolutely would not react like this if he just broke up with me and I have never said or hinted at that. Not sure really what to do now. My gut tells me to leave him over this, but I'm so unsure. Wow, OP, your boyfriend is a massive douchebag. I'm sorry that his ex guilt-tripped him or manipulated him or whatever, but that does not give him the right to do what he did to you. He faked his death so that you wouldn't be so angry that he drove drunk? What kind of idiotic logic is that? Yes, OP, this guy should definitely become your ex-boyfriend like yesterday. His actions triggered your self-harm and then he gaslights you, telling you that you're trying to manipulate him or something like that? Get rid of this piece of crap as fast as you can. And yes, try to amp up the therapy by yourself and put yourself in a better situation, OP. Honestly, I am in awe of how much of an idiot your boyfriend is. And I'm gonna leave it at that because I could be ranting for hours regarding this idiot. And what do you guys think about this? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know your opinion in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what advice they gave OP. Rory Skillmore says, "Please listen to your gut. This is beyond horrible behavior, not a harmless prank. You deserve to be with someone who has compassion and respect for you." Sanguinade12 says, "He was dead. You can't punish the dead. As it stands, if you didn't need therapy before, having this BS pulled on you unleashed all sorts of things in your head which require some working through. There are pranks and there are pranks, and there are pranks completely undeserving of the term. You weren't laughing before or after the revelation. In what world was this supposed to make you feel better? Go with your gut. Be done. There's no forgetting he did this. There's no forgetting how he made you feel. No decent partner does this." Grunt Bugley says, "Your boyfriend is a horrible person. What he did shows deep character flaws. The drunk driving is bad enough, the more so because he knew it was wrong and chose to do it anyway. But the harmless prank? That's just mean. So disrespectful and inconsiderate. Made all the more so by your personal history. And speaking of the accident, did he leave the scene of an accident while he was driving drunk? Or was he late getting home because he got a DUI? And OP responds, "He bumped into a fence post, so luckily nobody was injured. But the potential was there as well as the carelessness. I don't know if he was late or not, honestly. I think he planned this almost immediately and not texting me all night as part of it." Additional information from OP's comments. "He only felt that I played mind games at the beginning of our relationship, as that was his only experience with someone who self-harms, but it hadn't been an issue for years now. I do feel that we worked through it, and he has always been supporting during my urges when I first tried to stop, and even supportive during a relapse. That's kinda why I'm unsure now. All of this behavior is out of the blue. I know people are going to think I'm mentally weak or some crap, but I can and do recognize manipulative behavior, and I promise this is the first case of it I've seen with him. Definitely continuing therapy." Well, OP, I'd say this is one time too many to pull that kind of prank, and also, in pranks both parties laugh, you weren't laughing. Anyways, let's move on with the update to see what OP ended up doing. Long story short, I broke up with him for the following reasons. Drunk driving, endangering himself and others. Took his mother's phone and made me think it was her. Deception. Telling me he was dead. Deception, extreme emotional stress. Letting me think that for hours. I could list every negative trait for that one. Borderline psychopathic behavior. Not being sorry for any of these things. Twat. Telling me I'm too sensitive, invalidation and shifting blame. Being mad at me for relapsing. Unsupportive, uncaring, unkind. I still won't blame him for the relapse though, as many people there wanted me to. That is on me, and I am still going to therapy regularly for that. So, for those interested, I took a few days to myself. I did speak over the phone to his mom, and she was incredibly apologetic on his behalf. I taught her how to put a passcode on her phone. After that, we met up and I outlined the things I listed above. He seemed apologetic and sincere about all of them and listened to me well. Unfortunately, he didn't quite understand that being apologetic wouldn't get me to change my mind on ending the relationship, so his true colors came out at the end. He got annoyed at me for ending it and again told me I was dramatic and other invalidating arguments. Oh well, I said what I needed to say and that's enough closure for me. Good job, OP. Thankfully you got rid of that person. Thanks for sharing and all the best in the future. Take care. Now, we move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Relationship Advice and it's by user FlowerBandis. My ex turned up last night drunk. Tomorrow is his wedding day. Should I tell his soon-to-be wife? I was with my ex for 2 years. It was not the best relationship and we broke up because I moved to uni and just didn't want to be with him anymore. It has been almost 5 years since we broke up and I am engaged to be married to my fiancé, who is absolutely my soulmate. And yesterday evening, at around 10 o'clock at night, he rang our doorbell drunk. His bachelor party was in the city I live in and he came to see me. When my fiancé opened the door, my ex just started sobbing, saying that he couldn't believe he, my fiancé, was real or some BS like that. We took him into the apartment because he didn't look dangerous and he just vocally vomited before he actually vomited in our bath. What I could gather is that he was still very hurt because of our breakup, that he thinks that we could have made it work and he regrets treating me badly. He then threw up again and called an Uber to his hotel. It was very surreal. He was fine. We fed him waffles and coffee to sober up and told him to write us when he was in his hotel to make sure he didn't die or something. I was left with a weird feeling, almost dirty. I am thinking of contacting his soon-to-be wife. Or should I call him to encourage him to tell that to his fiancée? Or should I do nothing and let this just be an anecdote for my future? Yikes, that is a tough situation, OP, for you to be in, of course. Very uncomfortable for your fiancé as well, I'd say. I would believe that depending where you stand on, you could argue that you should tell the soon-to-be wife because, you would want to know if you were her, or that you shouldn't because it's none of your business, not your relationship. However, he did involve you by going to your house and saying all that stuff. Regardless, it is still a very difficult situation. If I was in your shoes, I don't know if I would call the soon-to-be wife. But at the same time, I believe it's not fair that she would marry somebody that feels like this. Maybe you can talk to his friends or any family members of his that you might have still a connection to through some social media or something. I would try to take that route. But what about you guys? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see the advice she got there. Jay Tenka says, put yourself in his wife's shoes. Would you want to sign your life away to this person? And OP responds, I guess I would want to know, but I also would prefer my partner to tell me that. Sadboy69 says, being drunk to that extent where you're throwing up multiple times severely alters your thinking and behavior. As much as this honestly would make me feel crappy if my hypothetical fiancé did that, it's very likely that was just the alcohol speaking. Drunk words are not always sober thoughts. Drunk words are drunk thoughts, and when you're that drunk, they can deviate quite a lot from sober thoughts. The Skipster says, quote, or should I not do anything and let this just be an anecdote for my future? End quote. That's what I would do. He was hammered drunk, and it is very possible that this was some weird emotional fluke because he was getting married and was super drunk. I've seen it many times before, and you can't attach any reliability or have any strong confidence that this was in Vino Veritas. Because of that, I would say don't go stirring up crap unless you just love drama. OP's edit. Thanks for all the feedback. It seems like Reddit is as split on this as I am, lol. Just because this kept coming up. My main goal with telling her is not for them to break up. I don't want that, and that's not why I would want to tell her. The reason for me telling her is solely that I would want to know if I was her. Nothing else. It's also not me bragging about him not being over me. That's not something I care about and wonder how some of you twisted it into that. So it sounds like the community is kinda torn between yes, you should go and tell him, and no, don't get into that mess. So now let's move on to the update to see what happened then and what OP did. I decided that contacting the bride was the wrong move because we are not friends. However, I sent his sister, an old friend of mine, a message, basically saying to talk to her brother because he appeared at my door drunk and distressed, and to make sure he was okay. She thanked me for the message and apologized profusely because my ex has been apparently acting a fool for a few weeks now leading up to his wedding. She asked me if I was okay and if her brother had gone back to the hotel room because they couldn't find him. I told her he had Ubered home and had written us that he had arrived in his hotel room at around 11:30 p.m. She thanked me again. Later, his sister called me again to ask if he had come by or said anything about his whereabouts. Apparently, he didn't show for the wedding and no one knows where he is. Long story short, he bailed. He decided he did not want to commit to his fiancée, bailed, and days later called to break off the engagement. After his sister and I talked, my ex's fiancée reached out and was kinda mad. The best man had told her he went to see me. At first, she was convinced we had sex, so that took a bit of a talking. I felt sorry, she was very distraught. She apologized, I apologized, and told her I wished her the best. On Saturday, I received a call from the sister. Apparently, ex reappeared. He went all the way to France. His sister called me to apologize because my ex has stolen one of my lipsticks. I honestly had not noticed, but my ex admitted it to her. She PayPal'd me the money to buy myself a new one. I said I was not mad and asked her how she was and how his ex-fiancé was. On their end, everything is a mess. Everyone is mad at him. I don't know many more details and was kinda not willing to ask. But yeah, that's it. Well, OP, at least you dodged a lot of drama, apart from that conversation with the fiancé, which was very nice of you to explain the whole thing to her. But regarding you and your fiancé, you're good and you're on track. Congratulations on the engagement and thanks for sharing. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I certainly did reading them to you. So if you did, then go ahead and give the video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and become a member of our Discord community that just keeps growing and it is fantastic. And like I said in the beginning of the video, all of the relevant links are in the video description below, so be sure to check them out. And finally, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. It really does mean a lot to me that you guys enjoy this content, so thank you once again. And having said all that, I will see you guys in the next video.